but now I'm mad fly.
To another episode of Life Off Road. This week's feature is a 2013 Shelby Cobra. You know, when the Cobras came out back in the early 60s, I don't know if many of you guys know who Carroll Shelby is, but he was a phenomenon and a pioneer for Ford Motor Company. He used to race back in the days, and he was the one who actually beat Ferrari in the Le Mans years ago, and he actually built a car, a Shelby AC Cobra, to compete with the Ferraris over in Le Mans. That's a little backstory of the car. But this was one of the last body styles before he passed that he was working on. It was a shame that he passed away around 2012, right as his car was getting done. Like I said, this is an updated edition of the car. This is the 4th gen Shelby Cobra, so it has the same, I believe it has a 5.8 liter V8, packing around 662 horsepower, 635 pounds-foot-feet of torque. It is mated with a 6-speed transmission. I believe this car has 373 gears in it. This is also Mustang's first 200 miles per hour car that was built from the factory. Mustangs had never done that, or any American-made car, factory-wise, could put out a car that would actually do 200 miles an hour in stock form. So that was pretty impressive. But this one here is comes in each Shelby edition is numbered and labeled by the manufacturer. You have different guys who worked on the car that put their stamp on the engine block, and we'll show you all that in a second. But interior is, you know, the same basic Shelby interior. You know, you have the white ball shift knob there. I believe that, like I said, this car has made it to a 6-speed transmission. I'm not sure if it's using the Tremec or another manufacturer 6-speed, but it definitely does get out the box. So we'll take it out for a test drive or two. All right, so welcome to the 2013 Shelby Cobra edition. I'm very excited to be able to drive this car. It's actually my very first time getting to drive a Cobra. Yet alone a Shelby one. You know, I had a couple of friends that had, you know, the 03 Cobras, and one of my other buddies had a 2011 Cobra that had around 554 horsepower. But this is the granddaddy of them all right here. I mean, when they came out with this car here, it definitely made a lot of car manufacturers kind of up the ante. Now, I think it really put a lot of pressure on car manufacturers. You know, when this thing came out, you know, this car was making way more power than a Z06 Corvette at that time. So, and even now, the standard Z06 that's out now, it's got 650 horsepower. This thing packs 662 horsepower. And when they came out with these, and that's when Dodge brought out the Hellcats that have roughly around 707 horsepower. I believe that's the numbers on them. But first impressions is this thing, you can tell it's a Mustang. It definitely sits a little higher than the Camaro does, my Camaro. But you can feel the power, man. It's definitely got some torque. Yeah. Yeah, I could get in trouble in this thing real quick, so we just gonna take it easy in this one. You know, I know a lot of y'all gonna be complaining about, oh, do some burnouts, do some donuts. This car is actually currently for sale, so I'm not gonna do that. We're not gonna drive like a Taurus, but you know, we're just gonna, you know, get on a little bit, play with it some. This car, like I said, this was Mustang's first 200 mile an hour car from the factory, so it definitely packed a punch. And yeah, it goes. It goes pretty good. Yeah, this thing would get you in a lot of trouble, folks. It definitely will. So you kind of have to watch out for the man in here. But car is very comfortable. It rides great. It's definitely No lagging here. This car is equipped with the 5.8 liter V8. It has the Eaton supercharger in it, which is the 2.3 liter. I believe it's on here. So that's a root style blower, folks, too. So it sits on top of the engine block. Now, one of the pros and cons to root style blowers is that when you normally take it to a track, after about 2, 3, 4 passes, it gets heat soaked. And when it gets heat soaked, you lose horsepower, you lose torque, because you need a bigger size enough intercooler to really keep in this thing to keep the engine cool. And nowadays, you know, if you do a modification on these now, or any root style type of blower, you definitely now get the big old intercooler, which helps keep the car cooler. So it definitely helps out with that perspective. So like I said, we're just gonna go around the block here. We're not gonna do anything crazy. This car is very strong, man. It has a lot of torque. You definitely feel it, that's for sure. It does do the business. It's just begging for you to match it, you know, just to at it. Then you hear that supercharger just kick in and woo, you know. It's nothing like it, man. It's nothing like it at all. As the chase car finally is able to catch up with me here. Like I said before, I think this thing will do a probably 10, low 11 quarter mile. I definitely think that it definitely holds its own as far as getting out the box if you know how to launch it properly. This thing does have launch control, but like I said, we're not going to try that today. But you know, it definitely has all of the perks that Ford, like I said, when they thought about, you know, just really redoing this thing, they really, I ain't gonna say they put all the eggs in the basket, but they wanted to make sure that they separated themselves from GM and even Dodge. You know, like I said, this thing was faster than the Viper. You know, the Viper, I believe, had roughly around 600 horsepower, even though it was all motor V10. Like I said, this was the first 200 mile an hour car in stock form, which was unheard of, not being a supercar. That's what made it so very impressive, that, you know, a manufacturer could build a car right out of the box at that type of speed. Just was, like I said, very impressive. I mean, you couldn't really ask for nothing more than that. The thing does have a 7,000 RPM tach. So it definitely, you can stretch its legs out. This thing does pull very hard. I think you could probably reach 140 miles an hour in third gear in this thing. I know you can do your 0 to 60 test time in first gear for sure. I mean, it just definitely has a wide range of RPM. So that's also a cool little feature, especially with what Ford did to modify this thing. You know, this was an upgrade from the 2005 Ford GT motor that Ford was using, which they put in the previous SVT Cobras before. It had a 5.4 liter that was cranking out roughly around 550 horsepower. So, but like I said, engineers got back together and they really just started really just fine-tuning this thing. And it definitely paid off for sure. Because this thing is an absolute beast, I tell you. And I'm not sure how many units Ford made of these, but I want to say they did these for probably 2 years, I believe, just like they did the 03 and 04s. I believe this model came, I think this was the first year of the 662 horsepower. I could be wrong, but I think 2013 was the first year to have these type of numbers. Man, I would love to take this thing on an Autobahn, or even the one to go fast, just to really see what it would do. Because I mean, this thing is it's pretty strong. It's no slouch now. I mean, it definitely does the business. I mean, it's not to be fooled around with. But like I said, I would love to see it. I would just love to see it on a controlled environment, of course, just to see what it would do. I think it would actually perform well. If I recall, I didn't really see many of these at the one. Well, you saw a few of them. I had to really go back through my tape and look through the time to see exactly what they were doing in half-mile runs. But you know, some of them post pretty good numbers from what I remember. But of course, I would have to dig through that tape to find it. Wow, they tore that house down. They put something else. Man, this thing is really, really fast. Thing gets you in a lot of trouble, folks. It would get you in a lot of trouble. Man, I'm not going to even say how fast that was. This thing does have little pops like my car does, which I love. This thing is it's pretty cool. Instant power, and the short throw shifter definitely helps out. I believe this is stock. You know, I think the shifter is stock. This whole thing, this thing is impressive, folks. I can't lie. It's very impressive. Very impressive. Now, interior-wise, this thing came with a pretty good interior. I mean, you have your standard Recaro seats here with the Cobra emblems in here. It definitely lets you know that you are in a top of the line beast here. You know, you have your Cobra steering wheel, have a little bit of Alcantara on the steering wheel, which I always like. It's definitely a great appearance for the car. These Recaros actually feel very nicely. They don't feel tight or, you know, killing my sides or anything. It's actually very, very comfortable in here. But this car weighs roughly around 3,800 pounds, which is not bad. It's pretty much a standard car. Little wheel spin there. That I was not trying to do, I swear. Oh man, like I said, these cars, man, you know, you definitely have to be careful with them. They're not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. But yeah, like I said, you know, when Ford came out with these, I mean, they really upped the ante on everybody. I mean, it made Camaro up their games. Now the Camaro finally has the ZL1 that packs around 650 horsepower, and you know, so they kind of try to keep the playing field a little bit even. But this is a good car. This car has the you don't get a sunroof in here, but you do get the moon roof in here, which is actually pretty cool. On a nice little fall day out here, you know, it's overcast, so it's perfect for a day like today. You know, now of course in the midsummer, you definitely want to keep this closed up. But on a day like today, it's very usable. So like I said, it's not a sunroof, it's just a moonroof, so you can just see through it out of it. So I think that's cool. You know, it's kind of like almost having T-tops, but you can't pull them off, but that's okay, you know. Now, I really wish that Carroll Shelby had a chance to really see what this baby was. You know, I think Ford actually did make them proud by building this car. You know, they really did a good job with it, and that's coming from me. You know, a lot of you guys know that I'm a diehard Chevy guy, but I love all cars. You know, like I said, I have a Camaro, you know, but I never disliked or hated the Mustangs. I just, you know, just preferred the Camaros. But this is actually a very good car, and I've had a lot of friends that have had Mustangs in the past, and I always enjoyed driving them. You know, especially you put the set of Flowmasters on them, you know, you really get a good quality sound out of them. But this one, I believe, was stock. I don't think there's been any modifications done to it, which you kind of don't have to. I mean, it's pretty much blowed out from the jump. So you definitely can do your thing, other than probably doing a tune to it. You know, if you wanted to tune it, and you know, I think if you try to, you could probably put a set of cams in here. But see, this engine here is a dual overhead, you know, cam. It's not small block like the Chevys, where you have the one camshaft that sits kind of down in the block. So, but this thing here, I've seen a lot of guys get well over 1,000 horsepower out of these things, which I can imagine will be a whole lot of fun in this thing, to be honest with you. But, you know, Ford did a good job with this one. You know, it's definitely not a sleeper. It definitely gets out, does its thing. So shout out to Ford, shout out to Carroll Shelby. You know, if you haven't seen the movie Ford versus Ferrari, I definitely recommend everybody should check that out, even if you're not even a car person. I mean, that was just a great movie. It really gives you the backstory of Carroll Shelby and how he got the whole program started and everything, you know, because during that time, the Cobras, the AC Cobras, were really the only things that were smoking back then. I think Chevrolet finally had to come out with the Grand Sport Corvette just to even compete with it. So that's a little history lesson for a few of you folks out there. But it's definitely a great movie. If you have a chance to check it out, I would definitely recommend you do that. So. I always love the tunnel shots. Not bad, Mr. Shelby, not bad. This car is very stable, it drives great. Definitely feel planted to the ground. It's definitely, Mustangs definitely have changed their whole stance on a lot of things as far as drivability and everything. This thing really handles well. I don't think this one has the independent rear suspension in the rear. I could be wrong about that. I know the 03 Cobras, that we'll do a feature on that. This is actually part 1 of this Cobra series, but I believe the 03 Cobras had the independent rear suspension, but I think this was a live axle. I'm not quite sure. You know, you can leave me a comment below if you think I'm wrong on that note. But yeah, this thing is this thing is fun, man. Well, that's it for this edition. This was a fun car. I ain't gonna lie. You know, Chevy really outdid themselves when they put this bad boy together. It definitely is a 200-mile-per-hour car. Now, I didn't try that on these local streets, but I do believe you punch it right enough, it'll get up to it. So, absolute blast. This car is actually for sale too, so I'll drop all the info down below in the comments. So, until then, I'm Jay Walker. You're watching Life Off-Road. We'll see you next week.
hello to the bad